happened was Adam Clayton Powell was the real deal one. It was the one that started the whole civil rights thing, but it was in a whole nother fashion than what it was. Now, even though he was a bit on the side of an aristocrat or whatever you want to call it, you got to understand this part, that whole political thing. You got to understand that that's the vehicle that he chose. But as the brother Juju said, he had a lot of spiritual things that was dealing with him and going for him at a particular time. Just so happened that what we know now, and we've heard about the history of, they've always had the history of a dualism going on when it came to the black leadership. The black leadership ever since, and it's funny, we found out that, and I never thought about this, that we had the book of law that was established by the angel Awas, or the god Awas, in 1904. Also, the Boule was established in 1904. Now, we also know that every time we had a positive black revolutionary leader, we also had the white boys' rendition of that positive black revolutionary leader. So, you know, you would have Du Bois and Marcus Garvey would be the one that's on the left, and Du Bois would be on the right. And when I say right is, let's put it this way, Marcus Garvey would be on the right because that's our right-hand side, and Du Bois would be on the left. You see what I'm saying? Because we got that whole Boule action and also the Niagara movement with Du Bois and that whole thing that went up with the NAACP as well as the whole Boule thing. But we also now know that one thing happened based on the science of Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1931, which was also the key to the Book of Law, is the number 31, and 3 times 31 is 93, and 93 is also the number of Awas as well as and also 418. We'll get into that later on for question and answers. But we also know that at that particular time in 1931, Master Farad Muhammad, who was the pet project of the Sufis, came and visited Honorable Elijah Muhammad and also hooked him up with the knowledge, the 4th grade education knowledge that in actuality in this particular time has now become more superior than the actual Afrocentric knowledge, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But we also know that 20 years to the day after 1931 would have to be 1951. In 1951 that Malcolm X was got out of jail. Now we understand based on the numbers, and we also understand based on what is called the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the knowledge of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we also understood that the European knew that Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the Elijah that was prophesied to come to be the forerunner to the Christ. They knew it, and little did we know that even through a particular congressional motorcade down the streets of Washington, D.C. for him when he went to speak before these congressional people and doomed them all to hell. But they knew who he was, you see. But they understood that he was supposed to be a forerunner. But also they understood that 20 years down the road, that after the forerunner becomes Christ, so they was thinking that Malcolm X was the Christ, you see. And so therefore they had started throwing World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. All these wars was established after the Book of Law to somehow send people to the front line, black people to the front line to kill the Christ. They said, well, we'll just put on these wars, and so therefore we will somehow kill the Christ. That's why the Persian Gulf War was very key also, because 1991 they understood based on the prophecies of what's that white girl, the big prophecy woman, Jean Dixon, that also she said that the Antichrist would be around 30 in the year 1991, 1992. But by the esoteric studies, the white boy knew that the Antichrist was their Antichrist was actually our Christ. So therefore, they had to start that war in 1991 also too. Now, this is the key. Based on that, they understood about the numbers of Malcolm, and Malcolm getting out in 51 and was also in the nation before he got out. This was key why they had to groom their pet project to counter that, and that is the reason why they made Operation Martin Luther King as the fake leader to counter Honorable Elijah Muhammad's movements, which they thought that this young person that put the Nation of Islam on the map based on his oratory skills as, Malcolm X, based on Harlem and all that, they had to go to the South and fashion this particular black leader based on the black churches that the Illuminati and the government has had control over, because they started this shit with the Freedmen's Bureau. So based on those black churches, they had to go in and they had to have a pet project, and so therefore this is while they groomed Martin Luther King, based on the Niagara movement, based on the NAACP, based on all of this particular thing, the Jews and these particular elite black people started the civil rights movement to always get this particular black leader. So that particular black leader that they started in the civil rights movement was supposed to be the white man's rendition of the Christ, because they thought that Malcolm was the Christ. And that is why it was crucial, and they worked around the clock, while they was also keeping the rest of the country out, because they put Martin on TV and keeping the rest of the country focused away from Malcolm X. They were setting up ways and working around the clock so they could kill Malcolm, you see, by giving you Martin Luther King. And that is why also to this day, most of the people in the 80s, most of the children that was born in the 60s, by the 80s, they didn't learn about Malcolm until the late 80s. They went through the 70s and most of the 80s, and they didn't learn about Malcolm until we just now learning about Malcolm, you see. And they did this to keep it out of the area of the masses of black people, even though it was a mass movement. But the key is we understand the mass movement does not go down in history, because we don't write history, so therefore not unless the TV predicts it, it doesn't go down. So that's why we understand why the United States government was also, as well as the Jews, writing Martin Luther King speeches, as well as I Had a Dream speech. You see, and also in the book, the Passover Plot, they give you a whole, even in the studying the Dead Sea Scroll, they understood that the whole Christ, the priest Messiah of Elijah would go unnoticed by the masses of Israel, which Israel just means black people in the later days. So we understand that they've always used that to try to counter. And as you notice now, most of the people that you see, anytime that they want to counter anything that they would call progressive, as far as whether it be revolution on the mundane or revolution in the spiritual level, they always bring up Martin Luther King. As well as, if you notice, the counter with the whole thing about the trial with Chris Darden the next day after doggone Johnny Cochran rocked they behinds, they had to bring up their fucking Martin Luther King bullshit. Because Martin Luther King is the man that they put in place to counter all particular revolutionary type of teachings that would, you know, liberate you, to give you the Martin Luther King, which Martin Luther King is probably the worst phenomenon that ever happened to black people. But then again, we also know that Martin Luther King was a messiah for white people, you see, was a messiah for white people. So they used this to counter the certain type of element of the certain element of black liberation, as well as the new messiah for them is they have come out that this whole Lord Maitreya and that will not work, so the new Messiah will be Colin Powell, based on what they're trying to do. And if you get the book, The Messianic Legacy, it tells you that the Messiah, based on the dealing with the script of the Dead Sea Scroll, that the European has been going with his whole monarchy, or his whole control system, whether his presidents as well as his kings was based on their following a pattern of what the Messiah would do. So your president is your Messiah. That's why black people got all crazy on election day when they got this clone up in there, and I'm going ahead of myself, and they elected Plowboy Bill Clinton. He is a Messiah to most of the people who are not in consciousness, and is not looking for the president to liberate themselves. So let's go into some things. Also, you've noticed that they are dealing with this Dalai Lama. Now the Dalai Lama is supposed to be a spiritual man from Tibet, and now he's touring the United States. He's touring the United States, and anytime they put you on the media, now he goes on Nightline. And what this Dalai Lama that's touring, he's a clone. We'll go into the cloning in a few minutes. But what it is about him is he's working for the government, so the government has now got him a spiritual person from Tibet. And so when Ted Koppel asked him, is this world in trouble? Now Ted Koppel knows enough to know that America is doomed. They asked the Dalai Lama, is this world in trouble? And the Dalai Lama said, well, based on what I see, America, even though there's a lot of bad things going on, he had to, that's obvious. He said, even though there's a lot of bad things, the world is getting better. Right there, you know that ain't no damn spiritual man. To say that the doggone world is getting better, you see, you know that ain't no doggone spiritual man. Any fool knows that. In his scriptures, I don't give a damn what book he comes from, he knows that he's going against any book I don't give a damn if it's Book of the Dead, Tibetan Book of the Dead, a Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, the Holy Bible, any of the books. You know, in the latter days, it don't supposed to get any better. And we can bear witness to that. So he's saying that it is getting better. So obviously this man has got to be a fake or a clone for the simple fact he hadn't looked at our situation. You see, to say that the world is getting better, and we know that the world is actually going to global holocaust based on the cracker. Thanks. This is exactly what I need, some honey. You see. So we know that it's not getting any better, but he's a clone. We're going to deal with a lot of that today, because they're going to send you the Messiah through these clones. And we'll deal with that in a few minutes when I go into the history of the clones. Now you got the brother named Solomon. Anybody know Solomon? Anybody ever went to see Solomon? Now Solomon now is done put up billboards in Chicago, putting up billboards in doggone Chicago saying that he's Allah. Now how is it? Now this is what get me. How is it you're going along your path, you read, you studying, and a man blows into town overnight, last summer, announce he's Allah in 2 lectures, and get 100 people from Atlanta to follow him? You see what I'm saying? Now he's putting up big billboards in Atlanta, in Chicago, saying he was Allah, as well as told the people that he was stripped naked in Wrigley Field and let the white man take a shot at him just to show that he's Allah. And people follow this fool. See what I'm saying? Now, what happens is based on the ego, what happens is a lot of people, they can't take the knowledge and also the power that goes with knowledge, so therefore they start going a little crazy, you see. So, there again, everybody's looking for a Messiah, and if you're looking for a Messiah, you'll get a Messiah. You see. And see, basically, most of these particular people, if they, like I said, if they're the Messiah, you say, well, hey, if anybody come to you and tell you the Messiah, you say, okay, well, look, I got this gun. Let's see, I'm going to shoot you. You say, well, we'll give you the Messiah test. Let's see, I'm going to put the gun and put it to your brains, and if you outlive that, I'll follow your ass. You see. So, that. Now, some things that you got to understand that is in the last days, you got to understand that the government is now doing some of the worst things, because the government has studied the people, and the government understands that the people are emotionally crazy. They know that, I mean, black and white, there's all these problems. So the people need therapy. So the government announces that we got what you call talk shows that can somehow be the ends to the solution to your problem. So all these people sign up to go on the talk shows actually thinking that they are actually doing something to help situation. Because every time on the talk show somebody stands up and goes, well, hell, why did you come and announce it out in the public to millions of people? They say, because I wanted to bring it out, because I wanted to get out, because it can help. You see what I'm saying? Knowing damn well these talk shows can't help you do shit. Well, they get, and obviously they can't treat your question. They got a panel of damn 10 people on there. Well, let's go to the next person. Let's go to the next person. Okay, we're out of time. You see, so now these talk shows, the government now, to let you know it's the end days, they are now making money off of the pathology and the sickness of America in which the government created itself. And so now they're exploiting people's psychosis, you see what I'm saying, and their pathologies for money. They're making money, so how crazy you are is the money for the damn white man. And that's why all of a sudden you see these talk shows, you see, spring up. And it's skewed out for, I just watch them just to trip, because you really see a monitor on how crazy people are in America based on these talk shows. And then it never proves anything, because if you notice, it's the same questions. Sooner or later, if this person's a prostitute or this person's a pimp, somebody's going to stand up and the question's going to come out to get the get the actual crowd going. The first thing they're going to say is, hey, you're doing that, but what about your children? How are they going to grow up around this? And everybody start clapping. Then somebody else will come up with some damn cliche out of the audience. And the audience literally beats up on people, but it's certain things that they do and the people just start going crazy. So these talk shows are actually a reminder of how sick it is, you see, in America. As a matter of fact, one of the guys that is the producer of the Nightline came on one of the late night talk shows, one of the ones that's so supposedly supposed to be better. Yeah, and he said, well, the talk shows are used, it says they use grief and pain of the people who do not know any better and think that they're going on TV will help them and help the solution. And they exploit these people for capitalism, meanwhile giving the impression that they are helping therapeutically, you see. So they'll do all this stuff, and we know obviously they can't help therapeutically because they have the same damn shows over and over again every 2 weeks. You see what I'm saying? How many shows can you have on cheating? And then you have some people like Ricky Lake and all, they have 5 formats that they do for everybody. And they don't go outside of those 5 formats. So all of this stuff is going crazy. Whereas even though Donahue is not what you would call in line for black people, his show was a little bit better, so therefore he's not popular anymore. And what happened? They have to take him and put him late night. He comes on like 4 in the morning now, you see. So these are some things that's also going on. Now, we're just going to go through a hard copy and deal with some things to let you know that the world is going crazy. These blonde wigs and the blonde hair and all the stuff, you see that people have died now and dyeing their hair. People don't know that what happened is that particular thing was started by the white boys in the early 90s and the late 80s. What happened is they got these brand new models, most of these models, and you know the models, you know how it is. They got these black models, and they told them, well, in order for you to model and keep in the modeling business, we want to see you with a certain amount of blonde wigs. So, you know, Naomi Campbell and all those started wearing a lot of the blonde wigs to start taking these pictures. So when the black woman started reading these fashion magazines, she was registered in her mind that this is the end thing, and then all of a sudden they started out with the wigs, and then they started dyeing the hair. And so the whole blonde hair thing, that now all of a sudden the sisters like Mary J. Blige and all of them that think that they really actually think that they look good when they got blonde hair. Oh, this is the shit. They don't understand that the cracker is the one that started it from the get-go, you see. And now also it got so bad with Jada Pinkett and the rest of the crew until now you ain't in not unless you got the blonde hair. Not unless you are conscious. You understand what I'm saying? But what happened is the doggone white boys is the one that started this whole thing with the blonde hair, you see. And this is another part of the doggone, the demise of the planet. Also you have this new crack cocaine that lasts for like 24 hours. Now hell, this ain't even ice, this some new stuff. Because you know ice been out, no, they got some new thing out. It's like, the crack is like, what's the lowest, $5 crack? No, they got one $3. Huh? Yeah, well they got this stuff is like $3, 24-hour high, because crack is what, a few minutes or whatever? This is like 24-hour high. Now hell, if they had a crack, and see people didn't notice, a lot of people got hooked on crack based on the first or the second time they took it, you see. And you know it had to have a one-time or a two-time effect to see how many people was hooked on it. You see what I'm saying? Based on the knowledge that crack is messed up, somebody would have got the picture, but you know we got to try things, and that's when it was hooking things. So and if they got hooked on it 1 or 2 times off of a few minutes, what you think it's going to do for 24 hours? That means as soon as you take it, you hook. You see. So now they got this stuff hitting the street. 24 hours high. You know what I'm saying? Now most people going to die from that also too, 24-hour high. So now, this is the new thing, because they understand even with the crack, and the crack did mess us up. But still, yeah, it's not enough to the standards of the government. This Unabomber that they're talking about, you heard about the Unabomber. Now, all of a sudden, now they come up with things that's been going on. They say the Unabomber been doing this since 1978, but all of a sudden, nobody knew about it up until now. The Unabomber is a government invention. That's the key to it. It's a government invention for the whole terrorist act. You see. That's why they even printed his manifesto of the Unabomber in the New York Times and the Washington Post. It's a government invention. It doesn't exist. All it is the same thing with the terrorist thing that they're adding in with the terrorist bombing. You see, they couldn't create this terrorist as far as the Arabs, the people, so the American public are saying, hell, just don't let no new Arabs come in the country. You see what I'm saying? So what it is they got to create a own show of terrorists, and so they give you this Unabomber. You see, this doggone Unabomber. All that is the government's type act that's going down, you see. And that's what the key is. So all of this is also to, as you know, to somehow declare this martial law soon. Also, you know, you have your welfare reform bill that is in now. This has got to go before the House, but we know this welfare reform bill is going to really, you know, do some things as far as let you know that, hey, they come in and they come in close anytime they pass a damn bill. Check. Also, they had a AIDS quarantine in South Carolina where they quarantined a whole town outside of Greenville, South Carolina. You see, whole town they quarantined. So that lets you know that they're still moving on the level of this whole martial law. One particular sister was some black activist, and I didn't remember the sister name, but the brother Rashad called me from Texas and told me some black activist from Atlanta, some sister that, you know, was really boisterous, got locked up for something, and they ended up putting her in a South, I think it was North Georgia concentration camp. No, South Georgia concentration camp. And the only reason why she came out of there is because she was a sister that a lot of people knew, and they couldn't risk this particular concentration mystery being blown open. So they had to let her out because there was going to be too many questions on what the hell happened to her. She was too popular. It's the only reason why she came out. But that still means that they are abducting hundreds of black people, you see, daily. And they say they have millions of black people in these concentration camps. Millions. So now we got the revolutionaries. Okay, we got 1,000 of them walking around the college campuses. Revolutionaries trying to attack me, saying, brother, it's about revolution. And I said, now how in the hell can you be a revolutionary when a nigga like me got to come and tell you about the concentration camp? Seems to me, you supposed to be a revolutionary. You supposed to made your move 5 years ago. Because damn sure you ain't waiting to make the move based on the big showdown. You see what I'm saying? Because the government is much more clever than doing something on the big showdown. So the brothers is talking about we revolutionaries, and ain't nobody fighting. But steady, the white boy is already putting people in concentration camps, but the revolutionaries is waiting on the concentration camps to open up, and they don't understand. They snatching crowds of them as we go, and the shit is already going down. You see? Like I said, I told you on July 3rd, we saw the FEMA automobiles by the hundreds. You see? Excuse me, I don't know, I'm thinking of something else. But we know that it was at least 13 FEMA trucks with packed with people, with black people on them. We know that the black people was on it. How many, we don't know, you see. And we don't know. So we know that they've had this particular things that's going on, and now all of a sudden, the revolutionaries are still waiting for the doggone revolution. So you have like your man Dale Jones, he coming, he's attacking all the spiritualists, but he don't even know the shit has started right up under his nose, you see. And so now, he's going to get out there and do the revolutionary thing, and like the white boy got there bowling and give you 24 hours to move and 24 hours to live, so that means you got 24 hours to try to kill the cracker and your ass is dead. You see, you better do it your revolutionary bit in 24 hours. Well, we know this thing is bigger than that. And actually, the cracker don't have no juice, but you can't tell that to these Negroes because they are running right in his hand and getting knocked over the head. So this stuff is already started getting on. Now, you had this guy from the Expos. Now, which one won the championship the last 2 times before they had the thing? Wasn't it the Connect? Was it the Expos? The Blue Jays. Now, this Expo thing is, they got this black guy because the Expos is a contender. Because we know it's getting laid on up into the whole thing. So this whole thing that went down with this picture from the Expos that the white girl last week tried to say that he was, oh man, she tried to say that he raped her, that was put on by the Atlanta Braves, because the Atlanta Braves know that they're jinxed and they will never win a championship because the Indians put the mojo on their ass in '91, you see. And so, you know, and told them to stop doing the tomahawk chop. So therefore, they are now, to guarantee them a win, they are doing things like, when these black players came, remember they said that this person was introduced to this white girl by some Atlanta Braves player's girlfriend. You see, so all this is showing you and it was Atlanta Braves that put this whole thing on. You see, it didn't go about because the lawyer really kind of peeped it. The woman was kind of weak, saying, well, you say this man took you and abducted you and from a club and all of this, and you didn't holler rape, huh?
Foster, it's 6 hours.
hotel, and she didn't holler rape no time and know she was going to be raped, you see. So know she was going to be raped, you see. So this is some things that's also going down. It's very key. Now, some things going down in Super October. Let me get my notes and stuff because we're going to deal with a few things. Super October. First of all, the movie Strange Days is coming out. The movie Strange Days is coming out. You'll see this particular movie, what's the sister name that's going to be in the movie? Angela Bassett. This particular movie, very key. Did you go see this movie? I think it's going to be a real good one because I think a lot of it now, they're caught on. And a lot of the good movies and stuff that we thought was going to be good, like Prophecy, it was all right, but it was kind of weak, you see. It was kind of weak. But the Strange Days, I still say that the movie, Mortal Kombat was a much better movie if you go see it and see what's actually going on. But the movie Strange Days is also coming out. In October, sometime around the 13th, they're supposed to have 2 eclipses, I believe. You heard anything about that? They're supposed to have 2 eclipses. I think they're supposed to in October. Also, Mars and Pluto is going to be in conjunction. Also, Pluto is in the 29th degree of Scorpio. Now, this brother that called me and told me this particular stuff, by him being an astrological type of scholar, he said that's some real serious stuff. Also, know you have the Pope coming on there. You know you have the Million Man March. And also, you know that you have, they might deliberate up until October and might into the middle week of October. You see what I'm saying? If they don't come out and say next week that he's guilty. We'll go into that in a few and let you know what's going on. Also, you need to start checking out the movie, the cartoon X-Men. Where they come on, 3:30? Yeah. Talking about the mutants. Real key, you see. You know, a lot of people that have been dealing with the comic books know about this type of stuff long before. But now, some of the people, you can start dealing with this whole X-Men thing that comes on at a certain time. I got some notes on this X-Men. 3:30 on what channel is that? Channel 36. 36. How many people have been watching it? The X-Men. The X-Men, they call themselves mutants. You see, the so-called extraordinary powers that fight against the original Homo sapiens. You see, they're fighting against the original Homo sapiens, which is black people. Even though they say they have the mutants, now the powers they have really belong to the original Homo sapiens. But what's happening is, based on the actual New Wave movement, what happened was the white boys told them back in the early 20th century that because you are a mutant, you have the next possibility of being the next Superman in an evolutionary phase of this particular society. So the white people believe, some of the white people in the occult believe, because they are mutants, which is a lesser person, gives them more experimentation for the gods to come in and hook them up, you see. And this is what, so if you see the movie, they are saying that the mutants are the greatest, and there's nothing wrong with the mutants. We're just as good as the original Homo sapiens, you see. That is because most of the occult groups in England believe that, based on it, that the mutants, even though they are less than what the original Homo sapiens are, they are saying that we have the, what you would call, because we are not yet developed, our development is going to be greater when it does come. And so they're thinking this whole new age is based on the development of mutants. You see. What's that?
And actually, Magneto refers to his people as Homo superiors.
Say what?
Homo superiors.
The mutants?
Yeah, mutants as opposed to Homo sapiens.
Real key, you see. So now, they're doing this whole bit. And because of the occult, so watch the movie. Movies, you're dropping a whole lot in the cartoons. Real key that you do that. Now, to let you know, let's say, well, I don't know, let's say I go to these lectures and I hear this shit and it sound good, but I just don't see it happening in the physical, everyday life. This is why you really have to look out for this which is going on, and that's this. When I go into the cloning, I'm going to explain this a little more. But be sure to note that when we went to the garden, what's the name of this this health food store? Return to Eden on Chashire Bridge. They had a particular shelf about this big, and about, coming from the floor. Now this is not in the aisle where you have your vitamins But right up in the front of the store, they got this shelf, and on this shelf, they had about 500 bottles of melatonin. An emergency. Also, not only did they have 500 bottles of melatonin, at In My Nature, the sister Shakira ordered a few bottles, and the white people found out she had them, and she said that, after they found out she had them, she ordered some more. She said, and they came and bought her out like 4 cases, I think she said, of this melatonin. And so now, if you know that they're coming on the news, and they're telling people about the melatonin. Now, when I go into the cloning, it's very key, because they're telling people that this melatonin is negative. And what it's doing is almost like damn if you do, damn if you don't. If they don't take it, they will die within a year. If they do take it, they got the side effects. So it's like the AZT thing. So they come on and tell the people about the melatonin for the warning purposes. But it's almost like damn if you do, damn if you don't. What's that? Sure did. And the guy was saying that in actuality the melatonin was good for black people, but we got to understand that melatonin is coming from animal hormones. Right. We already have it. And that's coming from animal hormones. But if the white people don't take it, they'll be dead within a year, you see. So, but it's got side effects. What's that, brother?
They had a whole article in the paper saying melatonin.
Today's paper? Atlanta Journal-Constitution? Okay, good. We need to get that.
After white people start taking it, they start going crazy after a certain point. They're already crazy.
Richard King told me last year that based on his studies and based on the studies that the Europeans have, that a white person can go crazy within 48 hours of taking melatonin. But they have to have the melatonin, and we go deeper into the mysteries, you'll understand why they have to have the melatonin. So even though we might not think, we think this thing is at a doggone standstill, it's not at a standstill. Now, when I go into the clones, we'll deal with some of that particular thing. There is some science, there is some stuff called the rites of Eleusis. Eleusis is something that comes out of Egypt, or Hemmitt, when Isis was hiding from Set Typhon, or even when she retired after her husband died and ascended into the underworld, she went into what is called the Eleusinian fields. Now, the Eleusinian fields is something like altered states of consciousness. It's like another dimension. So now, the Greeks had a play based on coming out of Egypt. They had a play called The Rites of Eleusis. Aleister Crowley, the early 20th century, late 19th century occultist, acquired some of this particular science of the rites of Eleusis, and it was a play. It's a book with a play, an actual play, and you go to places and you put on this play. But when you put on this play, you go into altered states of consciousness, the people that's in the audience. And he put on the play and started going around to Oxford and Cambridge in the earlier 20th century, and the white people started going into altered states of consciousness. And they banned the play. You see, you go